talk transparency codes. Let me tell you, it's not scary, but you might be dealing with something around it right now that might seem scary. I know that this is popping up more and more with gatings where it's Amazon's telling you that you need to have transparency codes and that you need to show them that you have the right ones. Now, let me tell you, I went to Amazon Accelerate just a few months ago and I spoke with an expert on the team to learn everything about transparency codes, and I want to show you exactly what they've told me. They told me everything around what categories they're focused on right now, what it is, who can deal with it, and ultimately where it's headed. So if you're dealing with transparency codes, this is the video to watch because I went straight to the source, someone on the transparency code team in Amazon, and they told me everything. So stay tuned and keep watching. You're going to learn lots.
One, two, three into the four. Snoop Doggy Dogg.
No, with transparency, depending on if the brand has like a trusted agency or retailer they work for, third-party seller they work with, they might work with them to implement certain products.
Okay.
If they are unique products, maybe like a certain 2-pack that they only sell on Amazon, for instance, but don't sell retail anywhere else.
Okay,
right?
okay.
That might be a product like that would be enrolled, maybe where it's not always directly by the brand, but the brand has involvement in their enrollment.
Got it.
Right. So those sometimes are like products that you might see that you might have been selling because maybe you're creating your own multi-pack or something like that, but then it gets enrolled and transparency gets presented.
Right. Yeah, because the brand is what I've seen in the notifications is that someone, most likely the brand, has enrolled in transparency.
Right.
Is that like the brand enrolling on Amazon that it's transparency, or is that off of Amazon?
It would be on Amazon. So we enroll brands based on basically brand registry credentials. So each brand registers their brand. They have a rights owner associated with their brand.
Yeah.
Who's kind of like the main contact for Amazon for that brand.
Yeah.
So usually we're working through them to kind of get the brand enrolled.
Interesting.
In that sense, but it's usually a brand enrollment. We prefer the brand to be doing the labeling at their factory if possible.
Yeah.
If that's not possible, if they have a prep center, they can do it.
Right.
But really the idea is wherever that UPC that's enrolled is sold, it should be transparency labeled.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
It's usually like, I can see it in the picture there, it's usually just like a little QR looking thing.
Yeah.
Right? Beside.
So this is like an example of an implementation, right?
Gotcha.
There's 3 different ways you can do it.
Yeah.
You could print this label yourself if you like. You could get these labels printed from a third-party supplier, or you could design this label into your packaging.
Oh, nice.
Kinda like
So
what
you can. This could be like an add-on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So this is like a Vital Proteins product. They actually have it printed into their packaging.
Got it.
So when it's getting manufactured, it's really easy for them. They don't have to add a separate label.
Interesting.
Anything like that.
And it's like, again, going back to the fact that it's like from the manufacturer, that's the person who has to do this, right?
We prefer it to be there.
Yeah.
Really, the main requirement is that if it's not the manufacturer, that 100% of that UPC, after it does get manufactured at some point, it does get labeled.
Okay.
So wherever it happens in that process, as long as it does get labeled, is our requirement.
Okay. Because what I brought up to you in a second ago, like Neutrogena, right? Like massive brand.
Yep.
Neutrogena isn't selling their own products on Amazon, right? There's a bunch of resellers who have bought it from authorized distributors who are third-party sellers and sell it on Amazon.
Yep.
So like all of a sudden, let's just say Neutrogena is like transparency enabled. I'm curious, like who enabled that?
Yeah.
You know?
Neutrogena might have a relationship with an agency.
Right.
They have managed their stuff.
Okay.
Depending on what type of products are enrolled, though, we still do require that 100% of that UPC gets labeled.
Right.
I'm not sure what products, like Neutrogena, if they are enrolled, what would be protected, right? But most likely, it should be a brand, someone that's attached to their brand registry account, and it has some sort of
So it always comes down to that.
Yeah.
Someone has access to the brand registry. They're the ones that probably enabled it.
It should be the brand still, even if, like, for instance, you're an agency, right, or a third-party kind of distributor in that way. An agency could bring a brand to transparency to ask to have it enrolled, but we would still need the brand's buy-in, direct brand's buy-in. So we would still want someone from Neutrogena to give the okay that this is going to be enrolled. Because we need to make sure that they understand what's going on with their products on Amazon. We can't just let someone else like that just has access to their brand registry enroll the brand, right?
Interesting. So even an authorized user on the brand registry, they're still unable to
Yeah, they'd still be, we would,
Wow.
if that slipped through the cracks, we would have to go back and look at that, right?
Oh,
but
wow.
in the end, like, for instance, if you worked with some brands and you wanted to enroll a brand in transparency,
Yeah.
right? You're like, hey, I'm their authorized distributor, they're online, Amazon, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
We'd say, okay, that's great, but like, we still need to have a conversation with the brand so they understand what the requirements are for the labeling. You could maybe help manage that product for them, right?
Right.
Or maybe you do have 100% of it, right? But in the end, we still need the brand's buy-in.
That's interesting.
To let them know, right? If you find
Wow.
that's not occurring, or you have a feeling it's not for some
Yeah,
brands,
I could bring that up maybe.
bring it up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let us know. You can go to the transparency.com website. There's a contact us button.
Yeah.
Type in the note saying, I don't think they're labeling everything. Send it over. The person that enrolled that brand will kind of work with them to remind them what the requirements are and just confirm that they are labeling correctly.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of
I know, ins and outs,
intricacies
right?
and yeah. But at the end of the day, I think, it kind of closes the gap between counterfeit and all that, and ethical like purchasing. So I'm with it. I'm with it. Absolutely. It's just, for the people who are resellers and just getting their foot in the door, it poses a risk for them, especially when I've had a horror story where people have sent in pallets of products and then all of a sudden, like, as soon as it gets checked in, the transparency gets enabled, and then they have to remove all that product to like figure out if they can put the transparency on there.
Yeah, so I think sometimes too, sellers get messages that they're not always sure what to do with, right, in a sense, and it looks scary sometimes. Once we enable transparency, that's the line in the sand that says anything new that comes in has to have a label, but if you had existing product in there, we would sell through that normally.
Oh,
right? So if you had existing unlabeled product in there, it would sell through normally. But you'd have to make sure any new product that you sent in had that code.
Because you know what? I remember looking at the email. It did say like check-in. Like they used the word check-in.
Yes.
Just a quick side note, guys. I know you're watching, but please, if you have a moment, subscribe to the channel to get more content like this, to get more content about me building my business from 100K a month to 200K a month as a reseller, as well as in how I can show you how to get to 100K a month and more. That's my plan with this channel, so I want you to stay tuned and be notified when I upload more videos. As well, like and leave a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if there's anything you want me to make content around, and I can make that. Now let's get back to the video.
Right? Yeah. This is the check-in like date.
Right.
You can't check in anything after this.
Okay, yeah, and that's another thing too. So that message comes up when we're bringing a brand to protection, so it's not protected yet.
Right.
But
it's like a warning.
Started the process. And what happens is we put them through a 30-day process called operational performance review.
Yeah.
Well, they'll start sending in labeled units. We're going to check them to make sure they're labeled, they have the right code on it, and everything else.
Yeah.
After 30 days in OPR, we add protection. But we send out a message to any seller that's been on that listing like in the last 90 days to let them know of the upcoming requirement. So if you do have products, it hopefully gives you a chance to reach out to the brand if you actually have a relationship with the brand, to be like, hey, I'm one of your trusted resellers. I have unlabeled products. Like, are we ready for this, right? Or can you give me codes so I can send them this product?
Gotcha.
So that's kind of that's probably the message that you got. Hey, like in 30 days, this product is going to be protected with transparency. Anything I check in will be checked. Blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And so that's like your heads up that it's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But like I said, thankfully for me, the code was already on there.
Right, good.
So
and that's what we want to see.
That's best case scenario.
That's exactly what we want to see is that the distributors or resellers are getting coded products.
Yeah.
So if they do want to try to attempt to sell, they have a pathway to do it.
Right.
We are still an open marketplace.
Right.
I will say, if you are a distributor though, and it does give priority to their trusted resellers or distributors to have an easier way to sell on that ASIN, where everyone else has to go through all the friction of transparency to apply to sell, like you might experience with the product that you have if you're not one of their trusted distributors.
And you mean by having product that doesn't have transparency codes versus has? Or?
If you have it even, right? So
even if I have it?
Yeah, you can sell, but you would have to jump through the hoops of transparency to sell it.
Sure.
Right? You have to apply with the codes. You would have to, if you did MFN, you'd have to
mean
give
like
us a code at shipment.
I have to approve. Like Amazon needs to approve the codes almost.
Exactly.
Right.
We validate, make sure you have
the right code
and the right codes that we issue to the brand for that product.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting. But hopefully, if it's already manufactured on the box, kind of like a UPC,
right,
it's the right one.
It should be. Absolutely.
It should be.
Yeah, it should be the right
It's more
one.
like if someone labels it like this, where they have to almost verify it to make sure that this is the right one. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, that, or maybe, like, for instance, maybe I have a large size in this.
Okay.
Right?
Different variations.
The packaging looks exactly the
Yeah.
same, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the large size is going to get a different set of codes, right? So
Right.
maybe you have the large and you're like, I'm going to try to sell in the small medium.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That would get denied because it doesn't have the right codes for the small, for that
Oh,
ASIN.
and yeah.
So this helps ensure too that customers are getting the right product,
Yeah.
right? And that, like, if there are variations or versions, it's child ASIN specific.
Yeah.
So down to the color variation, size, whatever it is, the code is
Wow.
an issue.
Okay. And then my last question again just is, let's say like the manufacturer hasn't enabled this yet on the packaging. Like this right here is a sticker.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Can a reseller, like let's say a retailer or even a distributor, not the brand itself, be able to create the right one and just add on top of this?
I would say it'd be very hard to do it.
Right.
Yeah, because what happens is if I had 100 of these units, each one of these codes is different for every single unit.
Oh,
So this
wow.
has a different unit than the second one will have, and
Wow.
everything else. So if we see duplicate codes, if we see a second code come in of the
Wow.
same one, we sideline that product as a potential counterfeit. And we think maybe someone knocked it off to try to recreate it. Anything like
So
that.
this has to come from the manufacturer. Like that's the idea.
It should. That's the best place for them to implement it. It's the best way for us to have them implement it because it's ensuring that 100% of that product is getting labeled right.
Okay.
That's one of the big things that not one of the big things, but something that we're aware of is some brands are going to do this and they're going to try to channel manage, right, where they're mostly labeling Amazon inventory to try to keep either themselves or whatever the distributor they're working with to be the only person on the ASIN. Which, like in the end, we want to help their authorized or their trusted resellers, but we can't break the way Amazon works, right, in the free and open marketplace.
Exactly. Okay. Awesome.
Good
This was
questions.
great. Yeah. No. I mean, look,
Great
these
questions.
are things that I've been dealing with.
Yeah.
All my students have been dealing with. So, at the end of the day, I think I realize that this is going to become more and more of a reality.
It is.
Right? Are you guys in certain categories more now than that we should kind of have an eye out for?
That's a good question. I think our most common enrolled product tends to be like consumables products. So if you think of like nutraceuticals, those types of products, right? Like the vital proteins, those types of things.
Okay.
And I think it's because like in that kind of category, the brands want to ensure the customers, for one, not getting a counterfeit, right? Because if there's counterfeit ingredients in there, it's a customer trust thing too. It helps ensure the customer feels comfortable with this product. And they see that transparency badge on the listing and says, hey, we're checking each one of these before it goes out to you to make sure you're getting the right product, right? So it's like additional reinsurance. It just brings more confidence to the brand and to that product.
And you're seeing it more in absolumes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the highest enrolled product. I'd say second would probably be hard lines products, so electronics, those types of things, obviously, right? We accept if a brand is already serializing, so if you think of a television you purchased in the past, probably has a serial number on the back, right? Something like that. If they have that serial number on the outside of the box, we can actually accept those instead of our transparency codes, and we can use that to protect their products instead.
This is a specific serial number?
Yeah, so for instance, what was it? I was talking to a gentleman earlier. They do tattoo ink, right? And they serialize each bottle that they produce with a unique number. And so that way, if it comes back, they see it again, they know when it was produced, that type of stuff, right?
Who it was distributed to.
Yeah,
they figure out the whole distribution channel.
Exactly, right.
Interesting.
So if they're doing that, and if they want to at least print it in a compatible format that we can use, like a 2D or a 1D format or a QR code, then we can use that to protect the product instead.
Okay, so it's like a homemade transparency code almost.
Exactly. It's their own homegrown, exactly.
But it's still does the same purpose. It serves the same way.
It identifies that one unit.
Yeah, Jarrett, thank you so much.
Absolutely, it's great.
This has been great. For sure. I mean, again, not just for this, everyone watching, but also just for me as a seller. Absolutely. I know, again, this is becoming more and more of a reality that
it is.
I need to, as a reseller, I need to open my eyes open to just.
Exactly. I mean, if you are going to try to sell that product, right? I mean, really. Yeah, because it is 2 points, right? It's a counterfeit, but the reality is the savvy brands realize that they can give priority or preference to their trusted resellers by doing this. And so, absolutely. It can be a kind of a hard thing for some resellers too.
Yeah, no, but pushes us to be able to find the brands and buy from them more directly as well.
And really have that relationship official, right?
Exactly.
And possibly you can leverage it to utilize it to benefit yourself.
Yeah.
Where if you
right.
are,
it gives you an edge if you can figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if the brand is really trying to support you as their trusted retailer,
Yeah.
right, or their trusted reseller, or whatever it is, and you can get that position, then that's a good thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, thanks again.
Absolutely.
I'll see you around. Yeah.
For sure.
Take
Absolutely.
care.
Get some information. It's a lot
Yeah.
of good stuff. So.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you learned lots. I know I did. I try to ask all the best questions that came to my mind as I was speaking with him. And I know that this is going to be beneficial to my students, to myself, even as a reseller. So please, 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 please follow his instructions. Understand that as a reseller, you have to form relationships with all of the suppliers that you work with. They've got to be legit. Right? Try not to take shortcuts. Try to always vet out the people that you work with to make sure that you don't fall into a trap where you can't understand and get transparency codes. Okay, guys? Again, just a reminder, subscribe to the channel, leave comments, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.